Lovely to talk to you.
I'm so excited, you guys. Finally, my new show is here. Not just a new show, but also a new studio with my favorite furniture designer ever, Werner Panton. All the pieces are made by him. Not just that, but for the special occasion of the first episode, I'm also wearing a Werner Panton print of his own hand, crewneck made by Dries van Noten. Now guys, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. But most importantly, share this video as much as possible if you like this new format that I'm working on, because if I get enough likes, enough shares, and enough comments, and enough love, then this, which is right now a pilot, can and will become a series. So it's all in your hands, guys. If you love it, share it. If you have a question, just ask me at askdacob@gmail.com. The email is also in the description box down below. Let's see who our next caller is. So who is the next person in line? Hello, you're talking to Dacob.
Hello, Dacob.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Josh.
Hello, Josh. Nice to meet you, even if only virtually.
Yes, of course, and glad to meet you too.
Thank you. So tell me, Josh, is there something in particular you would like to ask me?
Yes. So I am a big fan of Chanel's parfums, and I've been using them for a couple years now. I've had two of them. I've had Coco Noir, and I've had Coco Mademoiselle. And Coco Mademoiselle is my signature scent, and I absolutely love it to death, especially in the parfum, the pure parfum one. And I have a question. I'd love to use it, but I find that it does not last as long as Coco Noir did. And I use about 2 to 3 drops, but I feel like to me the smell goes away after a couple hours, unlike Coco Noir, which will last the whole night to maybe even the next day. So I wanted to know, is there any tips or tricks that you have with parfums and making them last longer? And yeah.
Okay, this is a tricky one. So first, I mean, I don't know if you want to, you don't have to tell us where you're from, but just tell us the climate you're from. Is it very humid where you're from, or is it cold, or?
Well, I just moved from California to Utah, so it's very different climate. But from California, when I used to wear it a lot, it was a medium amount of humidity, and it was usually very hot. Now it's pretty dry. Utah is pretty dry. So
well,
it's different. I haven't had a lot of experience with Coco Mademoiselle in Utah yet, but yeah.
I mean, this will contribute a lot to how the fragrance will actually stay or not stay on your skin, because, you know, I think in particular with Coco Mademoiselle, if you're talking about the pure extract, the pure parfum, it likes a cold climate. You're going to notice that within a cold climate that's not very humid, it will stick around a bit longer on the skin. But in general, you said you use 2 to 3 drops of Coco Mademoiselle. Yeah. So you're using the splash bottle, I presume, not the spray.
Yeah, the splash bottle.
Okay. So one option would be, because this is something that I love to do, you know, of course they're beautiful, these little glass bottles by Chanel. They're just really amazing, and they're just like the kind of the quickest connection we have to the actual history of Chanel, because they're the closest to the actual bottles that were made way back in the 20s. Of course, the stoppers were slightly different, but it's just part of the dream to have those little bottles. But with Coco Mademoiselle, I have noticed that I appreciate quite a bit the spray of the pure perfume. Now, this in particular, if you have issues with longevity, because with the spray, you know, they sell it as a 7.5 milliliter spray. They don't have it any bigger than that. But And it still lasts, because you would think, oh, it's a spray, 7.5 ml, it's going to last me like 1 week and then it's over. No, because the actual sprayer, the little tiny tube inside the spray is so small that the vaporizing effect that it does, it just takes a little bit of the perfume and it vaporizes it so nicely onto the skin so that you don't consume the bottle so quickly. But that way you get kind of a more coverage, let's just call it that way, when you apply the fragrance. I've noticed with Coco Mademoiselle in particular that when I spray the pure perfume, the molecules kind of, through the pressure of the sprayer, the molecules tend to, I don't know, they kind of detach from one another in a special way, and they attach themselves to the skin in a different way than if I would apply the pure perfume just with with the tab, with the actual splash bottle. Because when you apply it with the splash bottle, the concentration is literally limited to that little spot where you put it, but it doesn't dissipate. So that's a tip I could give you. I don't know. I think I think the spray of Coco Mademoiselle pure perfume is available worldwide. So I think also in Utah, well, at least, I mean, for sure you can order it through the Chanel website. I'm sure they have it there. But other than that, if you want to stick to the splash bottle, what I do recommend is to layer with an oily cream. Now, it doesn't have to be the Coco Mademoiselle cream. It can also be a cream that you could get at a drugstore, pharmacy, or some organic place. It could be a cream that has no smell at all, because you don't want to, of course, you don't want to affect the smell of Coco Mademoiselle. So you could buy a nourishing, hydrating, but also oily body cream. Apply that after showering or after bathing, then wait half an hour for the skin to absorb it, and then apply the fragrance. That should kind of, that cream will work as a sort of it will lock the fragrance more to your body. So that's a tip I can give you to try to prolong Coco Mademoiselle. Otherwise, another tip I can give you is, to me personally, Coco Mademoiselle smells very good on clothes as well. Some fragrances don't do very well on clothing, but Coco Mademoiselle is very good on clothing. It sticks to clothes longer than it does to my skin. I've noticed that as well. Now, what does this mean? Yeah. In particular, cotton, don't spray it on white cotton because it can stain. But darker cotton and wool, it sticks around on wool for a long time. But then again, wool is like hair, so hair is a good transmitter of perfumes in general. And believe it or not, let's not get too kinky here, but also underwear does the trick. A little bit on the underwear can also be really fancy. With Coco Noir, do you use the pure perfume of Coco Noir as well, or the eau de parfum?
I use perfume as well.
Ah, okay. So Coco Noir is a tricky one, but you said it lasts longer on you than Mademoiselle.
Yeah, and it projects a lot farther than Coco Mademoiselle too.
Yeah, and have you noticed also that Coco Noir is a bit moody? Like, it changes its attitude depending on the type of day, if it's in the morning, in the evening, if it's humid outside or not. Have you noticed that? Or is it always smelling the same? On you? Does it always smell the same on you, or does it have a little shift sometimes? Have you noticed the change, or does it always smell the same?
Oh, I noticed a change, especially within the layers of the fragrance. Yeah, I noticed a change.
Ah, okay, yeah, because for me that's also Coco Noir has sometimes I go through phases when I cannot smell it, and then I go through phases when I'm just so in love with it I can't get enough of it. It's a very fascinating, moody fragrance, and that's why I love it so much, because it has a lot of character. And also Coco Mademoiselle has character, but one more thing to really not forget is, when we love a perfume so much and we use it often, our own senses kind of tend to not really acknowledge its presence anymore, because we're not, our senses aren't triggered by it in terms of, our nose doesn't perceive it as a potential hazard or a potential poison. So, after the body understood that particular smell, Coco Mademoiselle in this case, is not a hazard to your body, it might stop kind of smelling it as intensely as it would in the beginning when you first purchase the fragrance. But don't be fooled, because people around you will still smell it. So that's another test you should make. You also have to, close friends or relatives or whoever, you can ask, after applying Coco Mademoiselle, and you don't smell it anymore after, let's say, 4 hours, ask somebody, do you still smell something on me? And see what they tell you. If they say, oh, no, yeah, I still smell it. Or if they also say, no, I don't smell it anymore. And this is something I've noticed my mom, she loves to use up one perfume at a time. And she doesn't like to really switch too much, But then she always tells me, but Dacob, I don't smell the perfume anymore after using it 1 month. I'm like, yeah, of course you don't, Mom, because you always use one perfume. And your nose gets so used to it, you got to keep upping the dose. It's like an addiction, It's like,
Yeah.
and it's
so
yeah,
true.
yeah. So that's something you should also consider. But did you ever apply it to clothes or just to your skin?
I apply it to skin. Sometimes it would get on my clothes, and I agree. You do smell it longer on my clothes. I can get my shirt the next day, and I'll smell it still on there.
Ah, you see? Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
But mainly, I keep it on my skin.
Yeah, that's good. But it rubs off a little bit on the clothes as well. But I would definitely say, I think Utah is more friendly to Coco Mademoiselle than California is. So you're good there. Yeah, and let me know how it goes. In particular when autumn and winter kicks in, how Coco Mademoiselle is gonna treat your skin and how your skin will treat it. That's also gonna be a very fascinating journey and experiment for you to see how it develops in the next months. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for calling in, and I hope I've managed to answer your question, at least in part. I hope you're satisfied.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you gave me my answer and even more.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Short break. We'll be right back. Hi, who's the next caller? Who do we have in the studio?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Mia. I'm from Chicago.
Hi, Mia or Nia, with an M or an N?
Mia with an M as in mouse.
Hi, Mia Mouse. How you doing? Dacob here. How's it going?
Hi, good afternoon. It's going well. Thank you so much for taking the time to take my call.
Well, thank you for calling. So tell me, what is your question?
Yes, my question, which seems to be a pretty prevalent one out in the YouTube world as well, is has Louis Vuitton changed their manufacturing companies, or I've just been seeing a lot of decline in the quality of Louis Vuitton handbags. I just purchased the Speedy 30 about a month ago. I had to take it back over the weekend. By the way, I didn't even use it because the leather was kind of pilling or something on the edges. Come to find out on YouTube that that's been happening on top of other issues that most handbags are experiencing with new purchasers, new customers. So what's going on with the quality of Louis Vuitton?
All right. Well, Mia, I mean, gosh, you follow my channel, right? So, I made a couple of videos on Louis myself, and I do mention the vintage compare as opposed to the new stuff. And, first we have to consider, so you're in the States, right? So you know that a lot of the classic Louis Vuitton bags are actually made in the USA. In particular, the Speedies and some of the Keepalls. So my question to you is, was the one you purchased, was it made in the US or was it made in France or maybe even in Spain?
So I have a few pieces. The ones that I was having trouble with are a Montessori, which is the backpack, I believe that's what it's called. That was made in the US. But there was a couple that were made in France and a couple that were made in Spain. So the one that was made in the US and the Speedy are the ones that were just, the quality was so bad.
Yeah, so this is a bit of an issue. And I think in general, well, first of all, let me tell you one thing. So I personally don't agree with the policy that Louis Vuitton has. You know that in the United States, but also in general, everywhere outside of Europe, the second that they export The second, when they export something to another country, they have to pay import taxes. So they have a markup. So their prices are higher in the US. So they also try to, produce a percentage of their bags and goods in the US also to avoid these taxes. So, my first issue is, well, if you're going to sell me a product that's made in the US, then don't charge me the extra import, percentage. Don't charge me the markup, basically, as opposed to the European prices. Of course, that would create a discrepancy between you would have in the boutique two keepalls next to each other. One is made in France, one is made in the US. The one made in the US would be 20% cheaper. That also makes no sense. So I understand that they kind of have to price them all the same. But so that's where they save money, first of all. Second of all, I've been actually just today talking to a friend of mine who's also a sales associate at a very big luxurious brand. I cannot divulge the name because I don't want to get anybody in trouble. But, but they told me very specifically that even the products that they make in France in their own factories, this person has went also to visit them as part of their training routine. They say it's literally becoming, since the mid 80s, it already was a mass product, but the production it's like a chain production. They produce en masse very quickly, and they have to be very efficient, and they have to reach their quotas. All the workers working there literally, get their numbers that they got to reach. And it's quick, it's fast. Luxury, unfortunately, nowadays isn't what it used to be. There are more people on the planet. There are more people spending money on the planet. These brands are the brands that they are. The high-end luxury brands are not many. It's not like high-end luxury brands have grown throughout the decades, so now we have many more to buy from. It's always the same. It's the same. It's the Dior's, it's the Louis Vuittons, it's the Chanel's, it's the Hermes. Those are the ones that are kind of really up there. But they up their production quotas from year to year. They don't hire new people, though, or they try not to hire new people. So what they do is, they give their workers less time to finish an actual product that they're going to sell. But they keep upping their prices so that the end consumer at the end of the day is always getting more and more hysterical and trying to rush and purchase a bag because they know, or we know, because I'm the sucker who gets, drawn into it as well. I also know that there's going to be a markup at least once a year. And then we rush to purchase these things because we're led to believe that they're just going to cost more and more from year to year. So it's almost as if we're saving money by purchasing them now, which is, of course, which is crazy because that's what brand marketing wants us to believe. But of course, it's all wrong. Sure. And then ultimately, it totally makes sense. And what the problem is, the quality suffers. Ultimately, the quality suffers. So yes, the fact that you have noticed a decrease in quality, and I'm talking all luxury brands, not just Louis, you spotted it very well. You're correct. There is a quality loss. Now, the question remains, what do we do from here on out? You remember, I don't know from what year you've been following me, but 2016, I kind of announced at the end of 2016 that I would spend 1 year without purchasing new products.
And I did not see that, but
so
that's what I'm leaning towards.
Well, guess what? So I made this experiment. The entire 2017, I only purchased secondhand, and I kept telling my viewers, hey guys, if we all together unite and stop purchasing, not even for a full year, if all of us just stopped purchasing for a month, all of these brands would react immediately because money, makes the music. When they notice that the money isn't pouring in, then they would have to stop for a second and reconsider their quality control, lower the quantity of production, the pieces produced per, production cycle, and then the quality would automatically go up. But the problem is,
no one wants to. Everybody wants those pieces, though. And that's what my next question was going to be. Well, what do I do? I feel like I'm being, taken advantage of, but I'm the one that wants those luxury pieces. So what do I do to change, the way these luxury pieces that my money, that $4,000 is going to a piece of, how do I make that change? And I think you just answered it, but.
Well, it's tricky. I mean, the consumers have to unite. Unfortunately, it's in the interest of the brands as is in the interest of all governments, by the way. They don't like when people unite. They don't like it when people protest in groups. So the brands, of course, would not favor at all to see all of the consumers unite and say stop. Another issue is, and this is a problem, in the United States, considered a first world country, has a certain type of consumer mentality. But there are also a lot of other countries, in particular China, that is on the rise. They have more and more money and they're spending more and more money. They don't care about really the quality. They just want a logo on the thing. Now, let's not generalize here, because also the Chinese are becoming very picky. With time, they're learning how actually luxury brands from Europe are tricking them. And I hope Chinese people watching me right now, wake up, guys, and smell the coffee. Don't buy it just because it has a logo on it. Check the quality of the piece you're purchasing. And this is an issue because a lot of these brands are also spoiled because they know that from certain countries, people are just going to throw cash at them. So then, the local businesses, whether it be, whatever, in Los Angeles and Chicago and New York, all these boutiques, they kind of strive more towards selling to the tourists and opening boutiques all the way, either in the Middle East or in Asia or in China in particular. And that's where the cash is flowing. And in fact, if we really notice the style that a lot of these brands are kind of following, it's a very Asian style lately. It's more appealing to the Asian market than it is, to Europe or to America. But so the local customers are kind of just let go. It's as if the companies don't really care, because we still care for the heritage. We still care for the quality control. We still care for those beautiful attention to details. For example, with Louis Vuitton, for me, one of the best things, in particular with the monogram print, how they connect the canvases whenever there's a stitch, when the bags have a cut, how the logos just kind of align perfectly. Well, that's not really the case anymore. Now, when you go and buy even a small leather good, like the little keychain, pouches, which are super loved by everybody, the bottom, the two pieces are stitched together, are sewn together. And then when you flip them on the bottom, the flowers are supposed to align. Well, they don't align no more. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And so these are issues why they don't align anymore, even with the pieces made in France, because they're producing them too quickly. So the only solution we have is to really educate each other, to talk, to share this information, to let people know, hey guys, don't be afraid when you enter a boutique also to question the quality. And, because a lot of us are intimidated. We enter a luxury boutique and then we have these, most of the time, sometimes there's wonderful sales associate, but a lot of times there's also snobby people there. And they kind of scan you from head to toe. And then you're scared to even ask them for, can you show me a second key pouch, because the one you just gave me now isn't perfect? And then they look at you like, how dare you?
Absolutely. 100%. You are so right.
They look at you like, oh my God, who do you think you are? But, and I'm like, well, I'm sorry. I understand that for you, the sales associate, you're selling these. I'm sorry that I'm always bringing this key pouch, but it's just running in my head, the Louis Vuitton key pouch. But we could talk about any other Louis Vuitton bag. Yes, for them, it's nothing. For them, they sell 50, 100 of them a day. So they've seen so many of them, they don't even care. For them, it's nothing. But for us, it's a special thing, because you want to have that piece for many years to come, and you want to treasure it. And a lot of people don't have just that money to just keep throwing out. And they want to have a quality piece. But unfortunately, nowadays, you have to make this decision. If you want to purchase a luxury good, you have to be very aware of this. You're purchasing a dream, not necessarily quality anymore. This is unfortunately the state of things we're in right now. You're giving all that money for the dream. I know, it's sad. But you still can find good quality made pieces. You just have to really be very patient. You got to go to the boutique. You have to work with a sales associate that and that is patient, and that will have the time and the patience to go through many pieces with you until you find that one that is made according to your criteria of quality. And that's where you gotta find the right sales associate that's gonna be on your side, that's gonna want to also help you in that endeavor. Ultimately, I do believe, and now here's a note to all you sales associates out there watching, I think ultimately it also suits your purposes, because to grow your clientele step by step, being maybe patient, with the people, you're going to definitely gain customers for the future that will stay very loyal to you if you give them that time.
Not only that, word of mouth too. If I love my sales associate, if I have a friend that is interested or perhaps saving up to buy a piece, I'm going to send that person to my guy, Ben. Go to Ben, he'll take care of you. So you're right there. You're right on the money.
Totally. And word of mouth is fundamental here. And in fact, that's why you're telling your friend to go to, you said to Ben, the sales associate.
Ben.
Ben, everybody.
Yeah.
And
he's amazing. Find him, Ben in Chicago. That's all I can say, really.
Ben in Chicago, guys. But
he is amazing. He took my bag back. He was so embarrassed. So thanks, Ben. You probably aren't listening to this, but thank you so much. He's pretty great.
That's
he took
amazing.
it right away. He apologized, and he brought out like 3-4 speedies for me to. So you're right on it. You're right on the money. Keep giving that great advice, and it would be great if we can all unite and not accept the crap that is being pumped out, especially for at $3,000 for a bag. You would think like I want perfection.
Oh,
and that's
totally.
why I didn't hesitate to bring my bag back after a month. And lucky he trusted me and said, I haven't even used it. I took it out of the box and I put it in the dust bag just to sit there and look pretty. And for it to just start pilling that way, I was blown away.
Yeah. And also, the materials that they're using, the kind of the sourced out, the raw materials are changing. If we compare the canvases from many years ago to the ones today, depending on the type of bag you're purchasing from Louis Vuitton, some of them are more rubbery, some of them are a bit more stiff. But these are different chemical components used today than they were 20, 30 years ago. Now, at the same time, we also have to say these brands do, up to a certain extent, invest in further developing and researching new materials that keep coming out. So we got to hand it to them as well, because they do try to find other ways to, create kind of more modern type materials that maybe can also stand more the test of time than the ones in the past do, because a lot of the particular 70s 80s Louis Vuitton bags, we're talking about Keepalls, we're talking about they kind of tend to dry out. The canvases can crack in some cases, but that's because the particular type of rubber or the chemical components, the plastics used, they would dry out with time. So they do also do research and try in terms of trying to find new plastics and new materials that can kind of live a bit longer. And that's another thing to consider. And so I also say you got to give these brands a little bit of breathing space there. And definitely the best thing that I heard so far is that your sales associate was apologetic about it and that he acknowledged the mistake of the brand. That's the most important thing. Definitely.
Yeah, it definitely made a difference, because I had in my head as I'm driving to the place, I'm like, if they give me at least a hard time, even if I feel slightly uncomfortable, this will be my last Louis Vuitton piece ever. Like, I was okay, especially hearing that my problem was pretty common and my concern was out there with so many other people. I said to myself, if they give me an issue with this, especially since I didn't even wear it or bring it out into the light and daylight, I'm done. I'll jump over to another luxury good. Not that I can afford luxury to begin with, but it was going to be by far my last piece. But the fact that he was so understanding and so embarrassed, really he was. He's just like, oh my God, how did that happen? It was just such a tiny little spot too. So that did bring me back, and I said, I'll be back in a couple months. Let me continue saving up for another piece. But so, I don't know. Thank you so much, though.
Thank you, Mia. Thank you so much for calling, and all the best in your shopping endeavors and in the pursuit for true luxury.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Mia. You too. Take care. Bye.
Do you have a question or story for your pally Dacob? Email us at askdacob@gmail.com. Operators are already standing by and taking your calls. Shake a leg and jump into the party. It will blow your wig.
So let's see who is the next caller. Who do we have on the line next? Hello.
Hi, Dacob.
Hi.
My name is Dave.
Hi, Dave. How you
Good to
doing?
hear you.
Good to hear you.
Thank,
Thank you so much for calling. Hello.
thank you. Thank you, community. It's great to hear you.
Thank you so much. So tell
Thanks.
me.
Comments on YouTube, Instagram.
Oh, you're okay. So great. So you're all over
I'm
the.
glad that you're able now to hear my voice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So tell me, what is your question?
Well, my question is how, or if you have any tips, recommendations as to how to manage and cope with one's personal demons. I know for a fact, and from seeing you in your videos, that you are very emotional, empathetic, you're heartfelt. So, how do you cope with your inner emotions, your feelings, your anxieties in regards to trying stressful or uncomfortable circumstances? Maybe to briefly set the context, I'm a person who struggles every day with severe anxiety. So I would like to know your opinion as to how you cope with your personal struggle as well.
So, but let's first try to understand the anxiety that you suffer through on a daily basis. Is it related to you when you're outside in the open with other people, or also when you are alone at home in your own, let's say, safe nest?
It depends. Anxiety tends to be somewhat of a monster, you call it, and it comes and goes like regardless of whatever I'm going through. And it will depend on how I'm feeling or what triggers that anxiety. I would say it's probably a body reaction response provoked by personal life experiences that I haven't been able to quite manage or cope. And to maybe get you in other contexts, this probably happened after I fell in love for the first time with a same-sex person. And coming from a very strictly religious and, please quote, moral household with extreme expectations of what or whom I should be, this obviously but set up a different circumstance for me. It broke my so-called identity up to that point, and I've been having to rebuild my identity as of that nature.
Okay, so we have religion playing a game here with us. We have family morals. We have cultural standards that society abides by, and that also permeates and kind of molds us into a certain shape. And then we got to break out of all of that because we are who we are. We love who we love. I've been through it many times, and gosh, honestly, anxiety. Let me tell you, I'm anxious right now. I'm always, and
I'm anxious too. Don't get me wrong. This is overwhelming, but in a good way.
Yeah. For me too.
I am wearing poison. I decided to wear poison only because you recommended it. So.
Oh, thank you so much. That's great. Yeah, you're wearing poison today, and I'm wearing boudoir. So, but we're both very okay. You're with an 80s perfume. I'm with a 90s perfume, but we're both very vintage today. But
yes.
But you know what? But this is interesting that you mentioned it. So coping with anxiety also connected to fragrances. Now, good that you mentioned the perfume.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good that you mentioned the perfume that you're wearing.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm really sorry. But just to add to that, my first love experience was the person who actually got me into fragrances to start with. So there you go, another connection.
Oh, totally. And I think for me personally, because I also do cope with anxiety, and by the way, my anxiety is in many different levels. I mean, I don't really, I kind of melt on the inside. On the outside, I could show kind of maybe a more strong outer shell, but if I'm out and about, I'm very susceptible to shifts. If something is dangerous, I can kind of feel it, and I'm very alert. And being constantly alert, also because I was bullied a lot when I was little, and I've been through a lot of stuff in my life, so I always have this alarm that can get triggered very easily. And because I am so alert all the time, when I'm outside, that consumes a lot of my energy, and it makes me very tired. And I found that fragrances in particular soothe me. in a way. And sometimes in some of my not interviews, I'm like totally blabbering away. In some of my reviews of fragrances, I do say that I consciously sometimes decide to wear very strong perfumes that are literally that blast away whoever is next to me out and about when I'm out and about on the street, as a force field, as a protection shield. And psychologically, they are soothing to me, even though I'm very well aware that they might be a bit too aggressive for others around me. But it kind of helps me just stand my ground. Now, I have had experiences also when the perfume was so overpowering that the people got aggressive around me. But in that case, they just kind of say some rude comment and then they walk away. To which I usually answer, well, at least I'm using perfume. You should at least consider using deodorant next time you want to talk to me. But
Absolutely.
But that's just
totally
trying to be a
understand.
little, But fragrances can, and this is why I'm more and more with time noticing that it's more when I'm at home that I use perfumes. Like I would go from, let's say, a softer perfume in the morning, and then I would, if I would spend, let's say, a weekend at home, then I would, go through 5 or 6 different smells throughout the day at home, alone, and that alone would kind of soothe me in a way, without having to confront any other people, and it would give me a sort of energy boost and recharge, so that when the week begins, and I don't know if you're studying or if you're working, but whenever I kind of have to go back into society at the beginning of the next week, I feel kind of recharged because these fragrances gave me stories, gave me inputs, influences. I don't know, they sublimate something inside of me that makes me feel safe, comfortable. Comfortable is the right word, maybe. Comfortable more than safe. And then when the anxiety kicks in, because eventually it does. If you're out and about, and there's a lot of triggers. Each one of us has a different trigger.
Absolutely.
So my trigger is, for example, if somebody raises their voice very abruptly, I kind of tend to kind of like a little like a clam. I kind of
Like a flag.
Yeah, I shut myself immediately, like, huh. And I had to really spend years learning to break out of that shell and react. If somebody's attacking me, you know how many years it took me? And still today, I'm battling with this to fight back, like be loud, like scream back, like yell. I'm not going to let a bully silence me. And it doesn't always work. Sometimes I kind of think I'm ready for it, but sometimes like these kind of bullying situations come out of the blue, and then you're psychologically not really prepared to have that ready, sentence just to kind of say it back to them and be like, no, not with me. I will not accept your negative energy. I do not want your negative energy. You're having a bad day. Keep it to yourself. I'm not responsible for your bad day. And that attitude, even if sometimes I can't put it into words fast enough because I'm not quick enough to respond to the perpetrator, still internally I'm psychologically ready, and I know inside of me I'm not letting this total stranger who's being abusive towards me, I'm not going to let them get to me. And this, by the way, is connected also to situations, not just particular people, but also situations that can cause anxiety. I don't know, if we're talking about work, it could be some sort of evaluation of some project by your boss. If we're talking about studying, it could be some test you got to pass. Anxiety is everywhere. But in my family, I've went through big issues, coming out issues, not coming out issues in some cases. You just kind of like live your life thinking, well, they'll know. but
Exactly. That's what I'm going through right now. It's like, okay, well, they know, and the people I trust know, and that's how I've been able to kind of, let some of the steam out of the pot, to put it in a sense. But yeah, it's as you say, we still need to kind of find different ways to cope and to readjust our personality, our own persona.
But you definitely need some sort of support mechanism. I mean, whether it be something as basic as fragrances, but also, you just said that you are in a relationship, right?
I kind of had a relationship. In the end, it didn't work out, and that was just another story. Maybe another Ask Dacob session. But yeah, right now I'm single, and I'm just trying to find myself. I am rebuilding this new identity and who I want to be, who I'm supposed to be. And yeah, a work in progress, I would say.
But Dave, very important. When you say rebuilding who you're supposed to be, are you saying that from the perspective of who you want yourself to be, or are you saying
I
it?
want myself to be. Yes,
Perfect.
not
Okay.
who anybody else says I should be, or not who
Yeah.
society wants me to be.
Yeah, that is very important. That distinction is very, very important. Good that you made that distinction, because that shows me that you are on the right path. Because I think when we realize, first and foremost, that, I mean, yes, our parents brought us to this world, right? They gave us birth. And yes, there are certain things that are out of our control. But when we realize that this is our life and the time that we have to spend on this beautiful planet is very limited at the end of the day, because it is. What are you going to live? You know, some of us are lucky to live 80, 90 years. Some of us die, some of us die after 3 days of being born, after being born. You never know when it's going to, hit.
Yeah.
But that time that we spend on Earth, when we realize, oh, this is my time, so I better find a way to not put rocks in my own path, but rather enjoy that time, And you start acknowledging, then realizing that when you realize, okay, also on my own, it is important to be able to enjoy myself, to enjoy just time, spending time with myself, enjoying little things like little presents, getting a little present for yourself, like buying yourself a coffee with that extra
perfume
or a perfume. Yeah, but like anything, depending also on the budget. We don't have, listen, Coco Chanel, I say this in many of my videos, she always said, the best things in life are free, second best are very expensive. And
True.
just the other day, and this is, I don't know, for some people maybe embarrassing, I'm not embarrassed of tears. I'm not ashamed to cry, and I don't think anybody should be. Tears show strength. They don't show weakness.
I absolutely agree.
I cried the other day watching a sunset. And I was like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. There wasn't a cloud in the sky, and the sun was setting, and all of a sudden there was this ray of, there were all of these colors, it was like all of the colors of the rainbow at once, from the red hues to the orange until it kind of disappeared. And I was like, wow. This is a little miracle that just happened right here in front of our very own eyes, and it was for free. But I took it as a present to myself. What do I mean by this? By this I mean I actively, consciously acknowledged the fact that that sunset is happening in that moment. Why am I saying this? Because most of the time we tend to take everything for routine. We don't see these things anymore because they happen every day. They happen every day, and every day we're so used to, brushing our teeth. We don't think about the mechanics of how we brush our teeth. Every day the sun rises and the sun sets. We kind of take it for granted that it's going to happen every day. And this is a big issue. We have to, with the beautiful things like a sunset and a sunrise, we have to stop and realize, don't take this for granted. This is not something that I should allow myself to become subconscious routine. When we start doing it with the positive things, and here we're getting to the point, you will notice that this will trigger a mechanism inside of you, and you will all of a sudden also not allow other people who are abusive towards you. You're not going to allow that sort of abuse to become routine either, because then you're going to be very aware of those patterns as well. And I'm talking about this when it comes to anxiety, especially in relationships, because certain dynamics tend to become routine, and you're just used to getting hurt. And at a certain point, you're like, yeah, that's what it is. Just like
douche that keeps getting us and keeps
exactly. It's that Dior Sauvage that keeps getting us.
wandering around in the Dior Sauvage douchebag that keeps on reappearing.
That's exactly the point. But if we really realize it and consciously acknowledge the fact that it's happening, then it won't become just this routine that we don't notice anymore. But we will be very actively. We'll be very actively. I don't want to repeat actively active, but we will be active towards working to stop that pattern. And once we stop that pattern, it heals a little bit the anxiety. I don't think we can ever get totally rid of our anxieties, but we can learn to live with them. And once the anxiety also doesn't become this routine, because a lot of people I know are anxious, me too, as I said before. I kind of tend, sometimes, there are those days when I'm a little bit psychologically more weak, and I just say to myself, yeah, well, I'm just going to die anxious because I'm always anxious. But then there are those other days when I'm a bit stronger and I say to myself, no, I will confront it. I want to know where it's coming from. I want to feel it. I want to feel all of the repercussions it has, because that will help me deal with it. Ultimately, I think dealing with it is very important. Solving it might not ever happen completely, but dealing with it is very important on your own terms, and also very important on your own time. Don't let anybody force you into, oh, confront it now, do it now, time is running out. We are all different. Sometimes you need your time, and you got to do it on your time. Other people need more time, other people need less time. You know what I mean? So what do you feel in general? You're good with it, and like with how you cope with it?
I am, yeah. I'm currently coping with it. I'm managing it. I've had to seek, of course, medical counseling, and to this day, I still undergo that. But yes, from my end, I think I've reached a point where I've finally found the definition of who I am and who I want to be. And right now, I'm just making my life work towards that aim. So, and again, thank you for inspiring me. You are a wonderful creator, a wonderful artist, and more than a reviewer, influencer, you become someone really special to me. And you've been with me through my trying times, through my difficult times. So there's no other way that I can ever thank you. So thank you for reminding me to never give up on love.
Oh, thank you so much, Dave. Thank you.
Loveless world.
It's not a loveless world. We're in it.
Dacob.
As long as we're in it, it's not loveless. That's what I'm saying. But Dave, thank you so much. That is, I don't know.
It's been wonderful to speak to you, and an honor, a privilege for me.
Thank you so much, Dave. Privilege and honor is all mine. And I wish you all the best in life. And if you ever have, anxiety, panic attack, or whatever it is, just think of me and know we're on the same boat. We're both anxious. And I could just virtually be holding your hand and saying Dave, don't ever give up on love, dude. We can make this. We can make it happen.
We can make it happen. Yes, we will make it happen. Thank you again so much. I'm overwhelmed.
Thank you, Dave, so much. And I wish you all the best, and never give up on love. Let's see who our next caller is. Hello, who's there?
Hi, Dacob. It's Caleb.
Hey, Caleb.
Loving study of yours.
Oh, hi, Caleb. How's it going?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm really good. Thank you so much. Caleb, what do you wanna ask me?
Okay, yeah. So I did have 2 questions, and your lovely producer said that I should ask both, I guess. So
okay.
I guess the first one that I wanted to ask you about is, I remember it was it's been a long time, but it was a video you posted. You were reviewing maybe the top 10 luxury brands. I can't remember. It was a long time ago, but when you got to Prada, I remember you were talking about it, and I was just laughing so hard. You kind of had some criticisms for the people who are attracted to the brand, and I was just laughing because me myself, I'm a huge Mutual Prada fan, and so I was wondering if you'd be willing to go into more detail of why you don't you kind of, I remember you talked you think that the brand kind of attracts wannabe intellectuals. Kind of, I was wondering if you had some criticisms for Prada, kind of because of the quality issues. I know they had been producing a lot in Vietnam and China and stuff like that. So I was wondering if you'd be willing to go more into depth on that.
Yeah, for sure. Do you want me to answer this question first and then we go into the second one?
Yeah, yes,
perfect.
That would work.
Alrighty. Also, because I sometimes also, if I go on my rants and I talk, and then I forget what the second question was, and then we're just gonna end up repeating it, So,
right.
So better for Dacob to focus on one thing at a time. So let me think. Okay, so if I remember correctly, that particular video was not my top 10 favorites. It was literally a study that was conducted. That was way back in 2016 or something. It was the top luxury brands according to how much money they were earning.
Right.
Right? It was that video, right?
Yes, that video.
Yeah, so that was basically a video that list, because I've had a couple of misunderstandings going on with some viewers, because some people would be posting, or back in the day would post under that video in the comment section saying, Dacob, why did you put this brand, I don't know, on second spot rather than that brand? And then I would always answer like, that was not my pick. It was about the revenue that these brands kind of openly showed to the world in terms of tax payment or blah, blah, blah. So that's that. Whether or not I would put Prada in the top 10 is another story. But but let's just say, okay. So where do we begin with Prada? You know, Miuccia Prada is a very intellectual woman. And this is what if I kind of made a joke about Prada and said, you know, the gallerists, the New York gallerists, and this was in particular in the period of Sex and the City. I don't know if you ever watched the show, but yeah. So that's kind of like, you know, there was this one particular episode when Charlotte, she was in the Sean Kelly gallery, and there was this artist, Marina, performing in the gallery, and then like this whole kind of artist world was dressed in that style. So Prada was a very big thing for particularly the New York kind of academia, nah? And that kind of spread out worldwide. So this is where the wannabeism comes in. You know, every person that is kind of middle class or whatever that wanted to get into that kind of, I am also a multimillionaire, multiculturally active, artistically in art interested, potential gallerist type of person. I'm going to wear Prada as well. So of course, it's an exaggeration. We cannot generalize, obviously, because usually, but what is fashion? Fashion is an exaggeration many times. So obviously, when you're going to talk about fashion, you're going to exaggerate certain points. And then, of course, you're going to have people viewing me right now who are going to bash me for saying, oh my God, you're so, you know, elitist. No, I'm not. I'm just making a joke about it. Now, when we get to who,
Right.
you know what I mean? Ultimately, who wears Prada? Because Prada also was one of those first brands that began a sport range within luxury. You know, when they're with their little red tabs, you know, on the sneakers, they would have the red label Prada. And then Prada also has their own yacht, their own kind of boat or yacht racing. What's the name of their yacht? I forgot. Not the yacht, but they're like racing.
The Luna Rosa?
Yeah, La Luna
something
Rosa.
like that.
Yes, the red moon. You know, so it's all kind of, you know, we're talking these like the major league of billionaires that are kind of part of this world. So it's an exaggeration, in my opinion. What does this mean? This means that when normal people like us, when we buy into Prada, we have to ask ourselves the question: for which reason are we in love with it? And this is where we hit that point that you mentioned in your question about the quality. You know, some pieces are not made in Europe. I'm like, okay, so where does the price justify the dream I'm buying into? First of all, I have to ask myself, what is that dream? You know, I'm a big fan of Chanel. So for me, the dream there is literally the life of Coco, her heritage, blah, blah, blah. But with Prada, what is the dream? Are we buying into Miuccia's La Fondazione Prada? You know, she has this huge Fondazione Prada, which is a cultural and art foundation in Italy. Are we buying into that? Are we buying into her kind of quite elitist, in a way, circle of close artist friends? Are we buying into that dream when we buy Prada? Or are we buying into the dream of a sportive luxury brand where the logo is red, you know, the red tab, very visible? Are we buying into the visibility of the logo? Or are we buying into the dream of quality of luxury, which we know is not really the best in some cases with some of their pieces? So my question to you would be, what are you buying into when you buy Prada?
Yeah, it's like, I know for me, I am a pretty big Prada fan. I actually did a paper on her and you know, her background with having like the PhD in political science, you know, being a member of like the Communist Party, and like I loved when she incorporated artist Christopher Chaman, French artist, and I think it was in fall winter 1617, and you know, she did like all the printed shirts like before the half printed shirts. And the sketch from the artist that she incorporated in one of her pieces, I loved it so much that she decided to incorporate it. It's the one kind of with, it's a blue and it's printed on a white shirt, and it's like, it looks like a bunch of people fighting. And I remember one of the details, I have it written down for my paper. It depicts Nina Simone, and she was a Black American civil rights activist.
Yes.
And she's like fighting a white, like a visibly like white male, and he's dressed up as a knight. And so like I just remember, I mean, obviously this depiction is not coming from Mucha, but I thought it was interesting kind of knowing her background, like her academia background, and also like her like, you know, decision to be a part of the Communist Party, you know, back then, you know, economically. I just thought it was interesting that she decided to like probably choose this illustration to be printed on a shirt. And it was actually funny that you mentioned like about like how she kind of is tending to like the ultra billionaires with her, you know, sport race, like with the boating. I actually pulled a quote from her after the Fall Winter 19 men's show, the one with like all the Frankenstein prints and stuff like that, you know. She was quoted it was with an ID magazine interview, and she was saying, quote, "I was thinking of the great mass of people who are not rich, who struggle to pay bills, and how to survive, and how they dress and act." And I just thought that was like, when I read that, I rolled my eyes so hard, just because, like you said, like when we buy into Prada, we buy into a different dream. And no, she's basically just saying she tried to, I don't know, it's in my opinion kind of like, in a way, mocking, I guess, how like normal people are. And she like, I don't know, does that make sense? But I just thought that was kind of a shaking my head quote when I read that. So
yeah, like a cringy,
I thought it was
statement.
interesting.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's very interesting that two things to point out. One, what you're saying is you're very attracted to the artistic collaborations that happen because you wrote also a paper, a dissertation, you said, right, on her.
Yeah, it was just a really short research paper on her for my printmaking class, actually.
So this is interesting to note in general, when design meets art and when collaborations like that happen. Then the question is, of course, you know, Mucha has access to all these artists. She has the Foundation Prada. Fondazione Prada is the place where many artists wish to enter because it's prestigious, because they could put it on their curriculum, on their CV. And this, what does this mean? This means that opens many other doors within the art world for other curators to want to work with you, other gallerists to want to represent you, or maybe even other collectors to become interested in you. And that brings with itself an entire new world of business making, how artists are grown and how they fall, and how in particular auctions can make or break an artist. But that's a totally different world. But Mucha Prada is a part of that world, we mustn't forget. But let's just put that aside for a second and say, let's consider it a design world, fashion meets art. She has access to so many living artists that would be very happy to collaborate with her. And that where I also see beauty there. But this is not something she invented, obviously. We have had this in the past. You know, we did have Marc Jacobs at Louis Vuitton collaborating with, you know how much I love the Takashi Murakami collaboration. This was around 2005, or began even 2004 and then went on for several years. But let's go even further back. Let's go back into the 20s. Into the 30s, when Coco Chanel worked with Salvador Dali, with Pablo Picasso. You know, Picasso would kind of paint and create cuts for her clothes, and then she would create the clothes for Jean Cocteau's theater pieces. And Salvador Dali would paint all the backdrops to the theater pieces that were made for the clothes. So we see a collaboration, a striving of fashion and design in general to blend and combine with art. It's something that since fashion existed and since art existed, that this has always been a sort of symbiotic relationship that at times works wonderfully, and other times it flops epically. Example of an epic flop, in my humble opinion, is the Jeff Koons with Louis Vuitton collaboration. Right? Wasn't that tragic? Anyway,
yes, yeah. In my opinion, of course.
But why? Why that particular collaboration is an epic fail? I think because of the ego of the artist. In that case, we didn't really have the designer of the brand saying, I want to collaborate with the artist. It was the artistic director of the brand, or Louis Vuitton in general, the brand, bringing in Jeff Koons. Jeff Koons then bringing in the masters, the old masters, the painters, and kind of appropriating them from his own works, because that's something that was his routine as well in the past. But we see an artist curating older art pieces within a design context. So there's like almost too many people cooking a soup, too many egos, and it was kind of, I mean, some people loved it. You see all those, you know, Oh, let's throw some shade. You see a lot of those cringy YouTubers out there still with their Van Gogh or Mona Lisa, Leonardo da Vinci, Speedies, you know, in their collections.
Yes.
No names are going to be made, but y'alls know who we're talking about. But anyway, that's a bit tragic. Second point, going back to Prada, and I'm forgetting my second point, obviously, because I blabber on. So the first one was the collaboration. The academia. Now, yes, connecting to the people. Particular issue about Prada and connecting to the people. You said that quote that you read to me, that you mentioned was a bit cringeworthy, right?
Yeah.
And this is a big issue that a lot of these brands go through. When these people become so rich, they lose. I swear to you, and I've dealt with many of them. It's part of my work, and I can't talk too much about my work. But anyway, dealing with certain type of people, they, as good as their hearts are, most of them, I swear to you, most of them at a certain point in their life, they lose touch with reality. And by reality, they're in touch with their reality, with their economic reality, but they lose kind of touch with the reality of the normal person who has to have a job or 2 or 3 jobs to pay the bills. So their priorities are set in a different place just because they don't have the same struggles that the rest of the world has. So they, even if certain comments and certain ideas that they have and that they would like to implement within their multi-million or billion-dollar brands, even if they come from a good place, from a good heart, the translation of those ideas into actual products and campaigns and marketing strategies behind them oftentimes flops. It flops because the masterminds behind them don't really deal with people struggling to pay the bills. So it's kind of funny, you know, to talk about, to have these, you know, millionaires creating collections for the people. In reality, what they're doing is they're ripping off the people. What does this mean? It means that Prada doesn't do it herself. Obviously, she has a group of people, usually externals, not internals, usually external people, freelancers that are kind of trend scouts. They're paid, you know, they scout the world. They see what is happening on the streets. They see what the actual real people, the real people who are struggling to pay the bills, what's the tendency? Where's the nerve, the zeitgeist, you know, that famous word that every university, either art or design, is going to teach you, that zeitgeist, which means the spirit of the time, the essence of the time, the zhuzh. And then these trend spotters or hunters, they hunt that zhuzh down. And then they're paid good money by these big brands to bring that into the brands. And then that gets translated into a collection. And then you can have Mutual Prada or anybody else from a big brand tell you, you know, and then this comes inspired from the streets, from the people, and like, because we you know, blah, blah, we want to connect to everyday life. When in fact, what is created ultimately, the product that is delivered, is an abstraction of that everyday life within a luxury framework. And when you abstract, when you create an abstraction of everyday life and you put it into a luxurious context, that's when the consumer decides to either purchase or not purchase the product according to whether or not the consumer wants to buy into the dream. And here we come full circle, and I go back to the beginning when I told you what is the dream that makes you buy Prada. And we're back to the point where you said, well, you like the artistic collaborations, or is there another dream inside of that brand that you like?
I don't know. It's hard to put my finger on, but yeah, definitely the artist collaborations. And I guess, I don't know, for a while, you know, I don't like, you know, with like, let's bring up Gucci. Like, Gucci has just become so oversaturated.
Oh, yes.
And now I kind of do feel like that's happening with Prada. You know, they're even decided to not go on sale anymore, like how Gucci has done.
Oh, please,
so
go to their outlets.
It was kind of the lack of oversaturation.
Yeah.
And I guess just I appreciate her background in academia. You know, I'm a huge advocate for education. So that kind of like, I guess it's kind of like a fake dream for me, but I like to dream into the fact, you know, that I don't know, it's hard to put my finger on. Not that I can relate to her, but that I can at the same time. Like, I don't know, it's tricky.
Listen, it's not tricky. Actually, it's really good that you say this. And I love the fact that you're so honest about it. And honesty is what I think, there's hope for youth and the future if we can stay honest with our emotions. What do I mean by this? You're a highly intelligent person because you analyze the situation. You see, you read the things she says. Some of the things she says are cringeworthy, to say the least. Other things are not. But still, because you're thinking with your own mind, because you have that intellect, because you are an intelligent person, you can differentiate. You can still say, I love this. At this, design-wise, stylistically speaking, it inspires me from the way it's constructed, from the way it's conceived, despite the fact that I know that a lot of it might be coming from maybe the wrong place. And this I'm saying in particular, for example, the Nazis, Second World War, terrible time. Nazis were terrible. The pain, the suffering inflicted upon millions of people and the deaths, it's a terrible, terrible thing. But still, even though we know all this, right? Even though we are against the Nazis, we can still appreciate, for example, the Nazi architecture. Some of the architecture that was built, some of the buildings that were made in that period of time, they're just from a design perspective, if you take away all the propaganda, they're just beautiful to see. Even though they were made within the terrible context. But we can, there's an abstraction to that. Pyramids. Right. If you want to go even more back into time without being too close in history, the pyramids. We're talking about the pharaohs. All the slaves that were used to build these pyramids, most of them that knew then the secret passages how to enter, they were killed after the pyramids were built, just so that they would never divulge the secret entrances and the architecture of them. So there's a lot of pain and death connected to building the pyramids, which today, the pyramids are considered one of the 7 world wonders. Something to treasure and to protect, even though they come from a place of pain and suffering. So, of course, on a very limited scale, we can today analyze also fashion and art in that way, and we can abstract ourselves and say, yes, some of the things this designer says and believes in is cringeworthy, but still we acknowledge the genius. Same with John Galliano. We know the shitstorm he fell into,
yes.
at La Perle in Paris when he was kind of high on coke and kind of said what he said and lost his job, or all his jobs really. But still, everybody's going to tell you those were dreams that came true, his collections for Dior in particular. Every fashion show was a dream. And we still can appreciate that today, even though we know that it's coming from a wrong, even though he had, it was a bit bitchy to say the least. Let's just put it there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
Tell me.
Oh, go ahead.
No, tell me.
I was just going to say one of my most favorite articles of clothing comes from Galliano's era at Dior. It's one of my most prized possessions, but I have to shamelessly love it.
But that's okay, and it's okay that you do, because again, nobody can attack you for it, because you know what I mean. You know the goods and the bad sides of this particular product, of the story, of the history behind the brand, the name, him, and everything. So that's fine. It's like you are a historian of style and aesthetics. Let's just put it that way. And what was your second question?
Okay, so the other question is about Chanel. I had to incorporate some kind of Chanel question for you.
Oh, thank you.
So I was, just kind of about quality issues, that you speak a lot about, the quality of luxury goods, which I really appreciate. It has gotten me, watching your videos has gotten me so into that topic, and just, the ethics of the, entire fashion industry, not just on a luxury scale. But I was wondering, if you think that eventually, Chanel's, they've lost their quality, so to speak. You see a lot of people complaining about it. And I was wondering if you think, if there's a chance that, on a business scale that they're going to, wake up to it. I was trying to, think and rationalize, somehow with Carl's death, I know he spent a lot of money, producing, all the movies and, the ads and stuff for Chanel. I know that Chanel's not going to go away with their, expensive ads and stuff. But, maybe somehow if you think that possibly, maybe the money that was, going towards Carl's, movies for Chanel that, most people don't really care about, if maybe in some way they could use that money to help with quality. But, I mean, I don't think so, but I'd love to hear your thoughts.
That's a really good question. My answer is very simple. No, I don't think they will. I don't think they will. Virginie is a very subtle lady, and I will be talking a lot about her in the future. Very interesting what she has done until now. However, she has no power when it comes to decision making on quantities of the things that bring Chanel most money in, which is from the fashion. The fashion house is kind of separated from the perfumes, but so from the fashion house, it's the bags, it's the leather accessories, that's what brings it. And in fact, when you enter a Chanel boutique, the first thing you encounter, it's not, the first room you enter in every Chanel boutique is the leather goods. You got to go through all the leather goods, through the sunglasses, through the shoes, and then you arrive to the apparel. Yeah, now think about that. That means that's already the layout of the boutiques is made in a way because they know what they sell the most. So what catches you first are the bags, and then you kind of make your way all the way to the clothing. So Virginie, she doesn't design the bags; she designs the clothes. And these bags are literally the same bags made every season in different colors, different materials, and and I'm just a sucker for them. I love them, but truth be told, I sometimes spend hours at a Chanel boutique looking through all the details just to get the bag that does not have the flaw. Now, I'm particularly aware of certain things. I'm not saying everybody should be this obsessed about the quality. It's just me. I could live with certain flaws too, but it's just, I know I'll keep looking at them. And once a little tiny flaw is there, that's all you can see. But the issue with Chanel is in general that at the moment, China loves it. And China has the money at the moment. The most money is there. So when all the people purchase either in China or when they come to Europe or the States or wherever and buy Chanel, they want the brand. They're not really educated just yet about heritage, like quality of heritage or the heritage of quality of luxury. So many of these luxury brands have it quite easy because they know, well, these people aren't even looking into the quality. So we could save a good penny because we don't have to do quality control like our other clients are used to, and we could kind of just make stuff a bit quicker. But China is getting, they're learning very fast. They're learning very fast, and they're not going to be so gullible pretty soon. They're also going to start saying, wait a second. So the bag that was $4,000 is now $5,000 all of a sudden, but there's like 10 stitches less than there used to be. What gives? What gives? So people are waking up. I think consumers are becoming more intelligent. Of course, you're always going to have consumers that are not intelligent, that are going to fall passive to brand marketing strategies. But you're going to have also the intelligent ones like us that question things. And yes, we are a pain in the butt to many sales associates because we're going to go into a store and we're going to be like, but what about, and then the sales associates are going to be like, oh gosh, I just got to meet my quota. I need to meet my bonus. I got to get my salary paid, So some of them are really under pressure. These brands aren't stupid. The brands are also putting the sales associates under pressure because they don't want the sales associates to spend too much time with every customer. It's a terrible system. The fashion world, don't be fooled. We love the dream of beautiful objects because we're aesthetically attuned to these things. But the fashion business is a ruthless business. It's a ruthless business. It doesn't have a heart. It doesn't have emotions. It literally works in numbers. It works in pre-calculating. The best thing is to pre-calculate ahead of time how much you need to produce, and then that goes into production and you got to sell out. And the best is to sell it out before it hits sale. That would be the turnover. 100% turnover is a dream come true. Very rare does it happen in any brand, and even Chanel has sales. They go on sale every season. Of course, the bags don't go on sale, but the shoes go on sale. The apparel, all of the apparel goes on sale, and a lot of the accessories. So not even they make 100% turnover. But they do make a good turnover with their fragrances because those never go on sale. And the fragrances, and this is the part where Chanel finances everything, basically, because to make those fragrances, the Les Exclusives that we pay over $50 per bottle, they don't cost, a fraction of the price to produce them.
Right.
So the profits are ginormous there, ginormous. And we buy into a dream. And that's what it is. So to answer your question, ultimately, I do not see a better quality control in the near future. If, however, people start waking up, the consumers start waking up, as I tried to make the movement back in 2017 when I stopped purchasing new stuff for a year, and I invited everybody else to join me, unless we don't stop, at least for a couple of months, purchasing new, nothing's going to change, because the industry of fashion works only to the music of the money. If the money stops pouring in, then they're going to stop producing. Then they're going to like, oh, wait a minute, okay, maybe we should produce less and check our quality better. And when that happens, that's the moment when we can hope for better quality control within that particular brand, but not just that brand, every other brand. And don't be fooled by Hermes and their limited edition, like the fact that Birkins and Kellys are limited. They're not limited. It's all an artificial hype to make you believe that, or to make you justify to yourself the fact that the prices are insane. That's all it is. It's a very clever strategy. It's not that difficult to make that bag. I mean, they can tell you, sure, they have these artisans that need to work 10, 8 years before they're allowed to do it, hand stitches. Yes, great, all good and fine. But once you have the knowledge of those stitches and you know how to do it, you can make those bags, quickly, and a lot of them. And they are readily available. They're just artificially hyping them. So there's a lot of these strategies that go into play, but it's us. It's in our hands. The consumer has the power. The consumer just has to free itself from the shackles of brand marketing that kind of tricks us into believing that we desperately need the newest model. Yeah, that's that basically. I blabbered you full with my theory now.
No, it's okay. I loved hearing you talk about it.
Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. Anything else you would like to say before we
No, that's all. No, you answered more than what I was even expecting, so thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. So yeah, I'll see you in the social media then. On Instagram and everywhere.
For sure.
Alrighty. So take care.
All right, thanks.
And I hope to hear you soon again. If you have any other questions, just write in. And I mean, this is basically a trial run where we're trying to figure out how it works with the Ask Dacob. And if it works well, there's going to be many more episodes to come. So fingers crossed that this works and that you all guys, that you all like it. And if you do like it, then yay!
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember I wrote back, I think, like, in January, and then I got the email, like, I think this week, and I was, like, so excited. I had forgot all about it.
No, don't worry.
No, I was excited to hear back.
Oh, I'm super happy we managed to call each other. So yeah, then actually I say goodbye, and while I say goodbye, I say, what do I always say? Never give up on love.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So guys, this concludes the first pilot of my new show. I hope you've liked it. If you have, please don't forget to comment down below what you think about it. Also, share this video, like it, and subscribe to my channel. That's the only way I will know that you're really liking this new format. And if you are liking it, also don't forget to ask Dacob some questions. How to ask me questions, you can check out the email in the description box down below. I can also blend it in here. And it is askdacob@gmail.com. askdacob@gmail.com. Thank you guys so much for watching. Never give up on love. Love you all. See you soon. Take care. Bye.